Hello there. Imagine that you were arrested and taken to court. A man there says, "This person has committed a crime." The judge turns to you and says, "What have you to say?" You tell him that there is no crime, and he turns to the man and says, "Show me your proof." The man says, "I need no proof. Prove that there has been no crime." Would you expect the judge to accept an argument like this? The basis of our criminal system is that one does not need to prove his innocence. The party making the positive claim has to show the proof of the claim, and this is how it has to be, since you cannot, nor should you need to, disprove a claim that has no evidence. Once the evidence is presented, you may need to disprove it, but nevertheless, the evidence needs to be presented first. So I find myself wondering why it is that people who believe in this system would say that you cannot prove there is no God. Their statement that there is a God is analogous to the claim that you have committed a crime. It is the positive claim, and therefore evidence must be presented. Now, imagine that you are in this court, and the jury is populated with people who think that the prosecuting attorney must have a reason to arrest you, even if they have not seen any evidence, and expect you to prove that you are innocent. You'd be in pretty bad shape in this case. How could you disprove evidence that you have not seen? It would be a very unreasonable expectation, one that you could only expect from a totalitarian regime, not a nation that prides itself as a nation of laws and justice. In my last video, I talked about why I believe we should not allow religious fundamentalists into position of authority. My reasoning was that these people are not able, for whatever reason, to distinguish objective truth. I also said that I believe these people are willfully ignorant, that they actively deny evidence that conflicts with their belief system. Now, some people may think this is an extreme view, but I ask you now, would you want these people sitting on your jury? They have decided that you must prove the unprovable, and that the burden of proof is on you to convince them otherwise. What is more, they have decided that they are allowed to discard any evidence that may conflict with their preconceived opinions. Now, fortunately, our justice system does not allow this. This is one of the reasons that lawyers have the right to disqualify some jurors. But this is not the case with our legislators and government officials. They could very well have these same biases, but you cannot disqualify them for that. So the question remains, why would we want people in positions of authority when they can actively disregard facts when those facts disagree with their belief system, or, in the case of politicians, their agenda? It's bad enough that we have political leaders, businessmen, and celebrities who have their own agendas, which may or may not agree with what the right thing to do is. But to then add the problem that they are not even capable of thinking objectively, or maybe actively ignoring facts, is just a recipe for disaster. Now, most people of faith are not at all this extreme, and I have no problem with those people. For the most part, they believe what they will and they let others do the same. They wouldn't let their belief system get in the way of the facts, would they? Well, maybe. Their tolerance of others' beliefs, no matter how extreme, is damaging to our society. In many cases, it allows people with extreme views, such as Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck, to determine the course of the dialogue. We have several issues at this time that would fit this mold. The discussion of whether the U.S. was founded on Christian values, the ongoing debate on the abortion question, the gay marriage issue all spring to mind. In all of these cases, it's not the rational, reasonable people who are framing the discussion, but the extremists. It's obvious to me that these people are not capable of objectively evaluating the merits of any position, since their religious biases tend to make them inflexible in their thinking, And that is assuming that one can consider the blind repetition of their religious dogma as thinking at all. I see no reason why we should feel that their opinion is valid when we are trying to decide how to deal with such questions. To return to my analogy, I wouldn't want these people sitting on my jury. Maybe the prosecuting attorney will bring out that I'm an atheist. Would this type of person be at all sympathetic to my plight if they thought I was godless? Would they be able to objectively determine the facts of the case? I doubt it very much. Any set of beliefs one may have must be like a suit of clothes. They have to be something one can feel comfortable with, something they fit into well. If you're a size 5, I can't tell you that you must always wear a size 3, but that is exactly what an extremist thinks. Everyone needs to be a size 3. They see the world as a thin line of gray with a large area of black on one side and another of white on the other. I think the truth is that the world is very gray, with only a bit of black and white in it. Is abortion wrong? I myself think that it is all too often used as a last-ditch birth control method, and that is wrong. But it's not wrong in all cases, and making it illegal ignores the instances where it's justified. Is homosexuality wrong? Maybe you think so, but it isn't your place to decide what two consenting adults do together, and it certainly shouldn't be legally restricted based on a set of guidelines formed by a bunch of religious opinions that vary depending on what God you decide you want to worship. Suppose all the lesbians got together and formed a religion with Sappho as their goddess. Are you going to now try to make the case that their religion is any less valid than the one you subscribe to, and therefore should be ignored? This would put the government into the position of deciding what constitutes a valid religious belief, which I'm pretty sure would violate the separation of church and state. What would happen then when people decide your religion is not valid? You can't have it both ways. Religious belief is an opinion, not a provable fact. Now, if you think it's okay to have people in power that are religious fundamentalists, consider what happens when the times change and there are more people who believe in some other religion than yours. Suppose the Islamists become 51% of the population. You want them putting their imams in power and deciding that the U.S. is now an Islamic theocracy? Or maybe 51% of the people here will decide that religion in general is a bunch of crap and elect atheists into power. Now we can make religion illegal altogether. At least the present situation allows you to go on worshiping whatever deity you want. This is why we have separation of church and state, and no matter how extreme you are in your beliefs, you should embrace this concept wholly. This is also the reason why the courts sometimes rule against the majority. They do it because they have to protect the rights of the few from the wishes of the many. I do not believe that any fundamentalist who happens to view this will be swayed at all by this type of thinking. They have shown again and again that logic and reason mean nothing to them when it challenges their belief system. My hope is that those of you who are not like them will recognize that these extremists should have no place in these social discussions, nor should they have any say in the creation of any policies that come from these discussions. Extremists are all too often hateful, bigoted, short-sighted, and ignorant, and they just shouldn't be on the jury. You have a good night.